Picture this. You're sitting in a courtroom, watching your cheating ex-wife smirk as she signs divorce papers, convinced she's about to walk away with half of everything you own. She's already planning her new life with her personal trainer boyfriend, counting the money she thinks she's going to get. But here's the twist she never saw coming. While she was busy sneaking around behind my back, I was quietly building a cybersecurity empire worth $15 million. And she had absolutely no idea who she was really married to. I'm Robert Sullivan, and this is the story of how my ex-wife Julia thought she was divorcing a boring software developer until the judge read my net worth out loud in court. Trust me, what happened next will leave you speechless. 8 years. That's how long Julia and I were married. To the outside world, we looked perfect. Holiday photos on social media, dinner parties with friends, the whole suburban dream package. But behind closed doors, that's where the cracks started showing. Julia worked as a marketing coordinator for a fitness company. She was ambitious, outgoing, everything I thought I wanted in a partner. Me, I was the classic, reliable guy. Steady job as a software developer, modest house, quiet hobbies. Julia used to introduce me to her friends as her stable choice. I heard it in her voice. Stable meant boring. But here's what Julia never understood about me. While she saw predictable, I was actually calculating. While she saw ordinary, I was building something extraordinary. Every night after she went to bed, I'd disappear into my home office. She thought I was just working late on regular projects. She had no clue I was developing proprietary cybersecurity software that would revolutionize how small businesses protect their data. By our 5th year of marriage, my side company, Sullivan Security Solutions, had landed 3 major contracts. By year 6, we were handling cybersecurity for over 200 businesses across the country. By year 7, major corporations were licensing our technology. And Julia? Julia thought I was just another guy putting in overtime to make ends meet. The irony was painful. She complained about our boring lifestyle while I was literally building the financial freedom she claimed to want. But I never told her. Call it intuition, call it protection, but something deep inside warned me to keep this separate.
The signs started small. Julia staying late at the gym, new clothes that seemed too expensive for her salary, phone calls she'd taken the other room. Then came the personal trainer, Tyler Boys. 6'2", perfectly sculpted, everything Julia apparently thought I wasn't. She started talking about him constantly. Tyler says this, Tyler recommends that. I watched my wife light up talking about another man in ways she hadn't spoken about me in years. I could have confronted her then. Part of me wanted to. But instead, I did what I do best. I gathered information. A few strategic security camera upgrades around our house, some basic digital monitoring tools I developed for my business. I'm not proud of it, but I needed to know the truth. 3 months later, I had it. Photos of them together, text messages, hotel receipts, a complete timeline of their affair spanning almost a year. Julia wasn't just cheating on me, she was planning her exit strategy. The night she finally asked for a divorce, she was practically glowing. We were sitting in our kitchen, the same place we'd shared thousands of meals together, and she looked genuinely excited to be ending our marriage. "Rob, I think we both know this isn't working anymore," she said, sliding papers across the table. "I've already talked to a lawyer. I'm willing to split everything 50-50. The house, your retirement accounts, even some of your future earnings since I supported your career all these years." I looked at those papers and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness. Just a strange sense of calm, like watching a chess opponent make exactly the move you predicted. "I agree. This is probably for the best." She blinked, clearly expecting more of a fight. "Really? Just like that?" Just like that. What Julia didn't know was that everything she wanted to split, our joint checking account, the house, my visible retirement savings, represented less than 3% of my actual net worth. The real assets, my company, my patents, my investment portfolios, all legally protected under a holding company I'd established before we even got engaged. Over the next 2 months, Julia transformed into someone I barely recognized. Gone was any pretense of sadness or regret. She was planning her new life with Tyler, shopping for apartments, even posting workout videos where he'd conveniently appear in the background. She'd come home from lawyer meetings practically bouncing with excitement. "My attorney says with 8 years of marriage, I'm entitled to significant support," she'd announce. "Apparently, software developers have great long-term earning potential." I'd just nod and continue reading my book, while secretly reviewing the quarterly reports showing Sullivan Security Solutions had just closed our biggest government contract yet, $15 million in revenue projected over the next 3 years. The beautiful part was how completely invisible my success had become. I drove a modest Honda, wore clothes from department stores, never flashed money or expensive toys. Julia saw exactly what I wanted her to see: a comfortable but unremarkable life. Meanwhile, Tyler was encouraging her to really go after everything in the divorce. I'd overhear their phone calls where he'd pump her up, telling her she deserved better than being stuck with some boring tech guy. Little did he know, that boring tech guy had just been featured in Cybersecurity Today magazine as one of the industry's rising innovators. The prenup Julia had signed 8 years earlier was something her own lawyer had recommended back then. Just standard protection, he'd called it, keeps premarital assets separate in unlikely event of divorce. She'd barely glanced at it before signing, too excited about our upcoming wedding to worry about such unromantic details. But I'd studied every word, every clause, every protection it provided for the business I was already quietly building even then.
Court day arrived on a crisp Tuesday morning in October. Julia showed up looking like she was going to a celebration rather than a divorce proceeding. Designer dress, professional styling, even new jewelry I definitely hadn't bought her. She was dressed for victory. I wore my standard courthouse attire. Simple navy suit, nothing flashy. My lawyer, Thomas Bennett, had briefed me on exactly what would happen. Julia's team would present their case for asset division, we'd present our financial disclosures, and then the judge would make his ruling. Julia's attorney went first, painting a picture of a devoted wife who'd supported her husband's career and deserved compensation for her years of sacrifice. He talked about my lucrative software development career and the significant earning potential I represented. I watched Julia nodding along, probably calculating her future monthly payments in her head. Then came the financial disclosure phase. This was the moment everything changed. "Your Honor," Thomas stood up, "we'd like to submit Mr. Sullivan's complete financial documentation, including recently updated business valuations." The judge accepted our folder and began reviewing the contents. I could see his eyebrows rise slightly as he flipped through page after page of financial statements, patent registrations, and corporate valuations. Julia was still smiling, completely oblivious to what was about to happen. "Mrs. Parker," the judge said, using her maiden name, "were you aware that your husband operates Sullivan Security Solutions, a cybersecurity firm that has been in business for 6 years?" Julia's smile faltered. What? Rob works as a software developer." "According to these documents, Mr. Sullivan is the founder and CEO of a company that currently holds contracts with over 300 businesses, including several Fortune 500 corporations and government agencies." The room went dead silent. I could practically hear Julia's world crashing down around her. The judge continued reading. "The company's intellectual property portfolio includes 12 registered patents, with estimated licensing value of approximately $4 million. Current business valuation, including assets, contracts, and projected earnings, places Mr. Sullivan's net worth at approximately $15.3 million. Julia's face went completely white. She turned to stare at me like she was seeing a stranger. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Your Honor, her attorney stammered, my client was clearly unaware of the extent of these assets. Given the length of the marriage, surely she's entitled to. Thomas was ready. Your Honor, all of Mr. Sullivan's business activities were conducted under the prenuptial agreement signed by both parties in 2016. Mrs. Parker's signature appears on page 3, acknowledging that any business ventures initiated by either party would remain separate property.
The judge reviewed the prenup for what felt like an eternity. Julia kept whispering frantically with her attorney, probably trying to find some loophole, some way to claim what she thought she deserved. Finally, the judge looked up. The prenuptial agreement is clear and legally binding. Mr. Sullivan's business assets, including Sullivan Security Solutions and all associated intellectual property, remain his separate property. Mrs. Parker is entitled to 50% of jointly acquired marital assets only. What does that mean, exactly? Julia asked, her voice barely a whisper. It means, Thomas explained, you get half of the joint checking account, which currently holds about $4,000, and half the value of the jointly purchased furniture and household items. Julia's face crumpled. But the house was purchased by Mr. Sullivan 2 years before your marriage and remains his separate property. But I need somewhere to live. The judge's expression remained neutral. That's not the court's concern, Mrs. Parker. You're a capable adult with your own career. I watched 8 years of marriage dissolve into approximately $2,000 and some kitchen appliances. Julia had been so certain she'd walk away with hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. Instead, she got just enough to cover a security deposit on a small apartment. As we left the courthouse, Julia caught up with me in the parking lot. For the first time in months, she looked genuinely desperate. Rob, please, I didn't know about your company. If I had known. I turned to face her, this woman who'd shared my bed while planning to leave me for another man. If you'd known I was worth $15 million, you would have stayed married and kept cheating? She couldn't answer that. Julia, for 8 years, you saw exactly who I chose to show you. A reliable, boring guy who wasn't exciting enough to keep your attention. But reliability isn't the same as ordinary. Quiet isn't the same as unsuccessful. You just never bothered to look deeper. I made a mistake, she whispered. No, I said, getting into my modest Honda. You made a choice. Multiple choices. This is just where those choices led. 6 months later, Sullivan Security Solutions went public. Our IPO raised $42 million, and my personal net worth jumped to over $50 million practically overnight. The business press called it one of the most successful cybersecurity launches in recent history. Julia saw the news coverage, of course. In a city of 200,000 people, word travels fast when someone becomes genuinely wealthy. I heard through mutual friends that she'd broken up with Tyler and tried reaching out through old friends, hoping to reconnect and apologize properly. I never responded. Instead, I focused on building the life I'd always wanted. I upgraded from my modest house to a beautiful property overlooking the lake. I started dating again, this time women who were interested in the real me, not just financial security. I began mentoring young entrepreneurs, sharing the lessons I'd learned about patience, preparation, and protecting what you build. The sweetest part of this whole story isn't the money, though it's the knowledge that Julia finally understands exactly what she threw away. Not just the wealth, but the man who was loyal, hardworking, and quietly building something extraordinary, while she was looking for excitement in all the wrong places. Sometimes the best revenge isn't dramatic confrontation or public humiliation. Sometimes it's simply becoming so successful, so undeniably valuable, that the person who discarded you has to live with knowing they had everything and chose to walk away.
Julia thought she was too good for boring, reliable Robert Sullivan. She learned the hard way that boring and unsuccessful aren't the same thing at all. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had someone in your life underestimate you? Someone who saw only the surface and missed the depth underneath? Maybe it was a partner, a boss, a family member who counted you out too early. I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. Did you prove them wrong? Are you still working on it? Remember, success is often built in silence, but it speaks volumes when the time is right. If you enjoyed this story of quiet determination and ultimate justice, please hit that like button and subscribe to Hidden Hearth for more real-life stories that prove patience and preparation can be the most powerful revenge of all. Until next time, remember, never let anyone convince you that steady means small. Sometimes the most extraordinary things happen when nobody's watching.